Today we're trying something different. Today we are going to answer 20 questions within the hour. So we're going to spend about 3 minutes on each question, just getting through everything on a wide range of weight loss and fitness related subjects. And if we don't get through all 20, what we're going to do is we are going to delete the podcast from the internet. I'm going to take down all previous episodes. I'm going to wipe it completely blank from the internet, because if we can't be perfect, why even bother, right?
Yes. Also, I need one moment to excuse my cat from my room, and she's attacking my feet. If you could give me a second.
Go for it, coach.
You know what we'll do? We'll cancel the episode because we couldn't start it properly. How about that?
Yeah, let's just, you know what? I'll take down my Instagram page. You take down yours. I'll take down my website, because if we can't be perfect with one little thing, then why should we try with anything, right?
I thought, you know what, Coach? You lead by example. I'll follow right up behind you. How about
that? That's ridiculous, obviously. So why do you do the same thing with your fitness and nutrition if you have an extra piece of dessert on a weekend? Something to reflect on, right? Anyway, let's rapid fire this thing. So, Coach, why don't you read out the first 5, and then I'll read out the next 5. We'll do it like that. So you do 1 to 5.
Sure.
Just read them out. I will just take them one by one.
All right, let's go. Number 1, why am I not losing weight even though I'm in a calorie deficit?
Cool. 2 things. Number 1, you're not in a calorie deficit. That's number 1. Number 2, you're not giving it long enough. Oh, I guess there's number 3 as well. You have maybe started strength training and built muscle, and therefore have lost fat and built muscle at the same time. Okay. So if you have been doing this consistently for, let's say, 3 weeks, and you're not a beginner to strength training, and there's no change on the scale at all in 3 weeks, you are not in a calorie deficit. Maybe you are estimating portion sizes. Maybe you are tracking in your head. Maybe you're forgetting that the weekend exists as well, and you're not making any kind of effort on the weekend. Okay, so if you are, as I've posted on Instagram before, if you're in a calorie deficit and not getting results, it's because you're not in a calorie deficit. Cool. You know what? Let's go on to the second question.
Let's do it. How do I stop eating when I'm bored or stressed?
Coach, go ahead. What do you think? What kind of ideas do you have?
Do something else that doesn't include food. And if you're stressed, then look to work on a stress management activity that is not going to increase your stress further, like working out. So stress management techniques. The answer is in the question. I'm bored. That doesn't imply that now you need to do something. If you're bored, that means you have downtime. That is all. Like, I can't remember. Is it the Beatles? Wasting time is still wasting. I can't remember this quote. Oh shit! I'm blanking on this. There's a quote of "wasting time is not wasting time if what you want to do is waste time," or something of that nature. Yeah, you type away there.
John Lennon, time you enjoy wasting was not wasted.
There you go. Yeah.
Although apparently it is incorrectly attributed to John Lennon.
I mean, well, you know what? I'll take it then.
Yeah. Coach Santo said it.
Yeah, there you go. First here on the podcast. Yeah. So if you think of anything that we do in terms of, negative habits or behaviors, a lot of the time it's associated with trying to entertain ourselves. So why are you doing those things? Okay, well, what can you fill your schedule with then? Or do you even need to fill your schedule? Can you just be a human being instead of a human doing all the time?
Well said, Coach. Yeah. And I've found that for most people that we work with, the 2 most common times where this happens, it's immediately after work when they get home, and it's also later on in the evening. And one solution that has worked pretty well for a lot of clients, especially in that after work period where they come home from work, they're like straight into the pantry. It's like, okay, well, let's redirect. Instead of going straight to the pantry, change your shoes and go for a 5-minute walk. Do something like that, something different to get you out of the house and to help you de-stress, because walking is very good for stress management. And similarly, in the evening, stay the fuck out the kitchen. Stay out the kitchen. After dinner, go brush your teeth. Pop a mint if you need to. Do something that's going to help you not make that choice. And it is a choice, even though it may not feel like a choice, to go into the kitchen and to start to eat. And then, nipping it in the bud as well, right, coach, by doing things like pre-tracking, planning your days, doing a better job with time management because planning is stress management. Time
Hmm.
management is stress management. So do a
Yes.
better job with not making so many decisions on the fly. Okay, I've got to wake up. Okay, what am I going to have for breakfast? Okay, cool. Now who's going to take the kid to school now? Okay, it's going to be that person. Okay, let me go to work. Okay, what am I going to have for lunch? I better figure that out. Okay, now I'm going to come home. Okay, what am I going to have for my after dinner snack? What for my after work snack? What am I going to have for dinner? When am I going to do my workout? When am I going to go and do some walking? Like if you are making all of these choices throughout the day, you are going to be fucking exhausted by the time you get home. So of course you're going to stress eat or boredom eat,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Because that's how so many people manage stress through eating because there is an instant dopamine. There is an instant stress relief. For sure. Let's not deny it, right? It works in the moment, but only in the moment. It is not it's not leading you to any kind of long-term health body composition goal. Okay. So dealing with it in advance by doing a better job with your planning and also having alternative things to do in the evening after work, after dinner. Cool.
Is it possible to lose weight without tracking calories?
Yes. It will make it more it will make it easier though if you track calories
Mm.
because you have more accurate data. Now that's not to say that you have to track calories or that tracking calories can be your step 1. Like what could a good step 1 be for somebody, coach, before they start to track calories?
Before they start to track calories is to be aware of when or if they're even eating consistently, bringing
Yeah,
awareness to the habit of eating.
100%. Like consistent meal times, that's a great step 1. Yeah.
Mm.
Speaking of awareness too, something else that you could maybe try is before you eat something, take a photo of it.
Mm.
Because the act of pausing and looking at it on your phone is going to give you, by definition, a lot more awareness and mindfulness of what you're about to do. So that's a really good
Mm.
thing. I think you should start off with.
So to add to this,
Mm,
the you're technically tracking calories. Is it possible to lose weight without tracking calories? Well, yes, you're tracking them just after the fact. You're tracking them via the scale with the weight
sure.
on the number on the scale. So this is more of an after the fact tracking. You're using
Yep.
after your behaviors that you've already completed. Now you're seeing what that tracking is doing, but just from an output perspective rather than an input perspective. So you're still tracking. It's that you're tracking in a way where you can't do anything about it.
Yeah, exactly. And if you want a really simple approach as well, you could look at the plate and use that as your guideline. Like
Mm.
at each meal, half a plate's veggies, a quarter is carbs, and a quarter is protein.
Mm.
Maybe keep it that simple. And then maybe you have one snack per day, whether it's healthy or not, that fits in the palm of your hand. And not like a cupped giant scooping, but like a flat hand only in the palm, not spreading out onto the fingers or the thumb. So, depending on the size of a cookie and the size of your hand, for somebody who's like my kind of height and build, like 5'11", around 185, 190 right now, that could be like a whole cookie. But if you're 5'2" and you are maybe 50 pounds lighter than me, that could be half a cookie because you're probably going to
Mhm.
have smaller hands than me. So that's what I would recommend if you don't want to track calories. Maybe there's a specific reason why you can't, and maybe it wouldn't even be a good idea for you. So it really does depend on the person. But to answer the question, yes, you can lose without tracking calories. There are guidelines that you can take, like the plates guideline that we just went into.
Mm.
Plus others that we don't have time to get into right now, but that is probably the simplest one. Okay,
Rapid fire.
let's do it.
Okay. Why do I lose weight during the week and gain it back on the weekends?
Most common reason that I see, coach, don't know about you, is that people overly restrict during the week and then make fuck all effort on the weekend. But how about you?
Yeah. They are in such a deficit and are so structured and strict and rigid to the point that
Hmm.
they just need a break from it all. And
Yeah,
that break ends up becoming like it's cliche. The weekend becomes their weekend, where that's the weakest part of their entire approach. So instead of doing that, like you don't have to take the entire weekend off, take a meal off, take a day off potentially. Even if you
yeah,
overeat, you're not going to overeat an entire week's worth of an appropriate deficit by having one meal that is, integrated into the program as well that you're going through.
Absolutely. Yeah. And by the way, when I say fuck all effort on the weekend, it's understandable if you're being overly restrictive during the week. I've
Mm,
done that in the past. Right before I
mhm,
educated myself on fitness, on nutrition, I would be super, super strict during the week and then just completely relax on the weekend because I had to. I had used up all of my mental effort during the week. I couldn't make any more effort on the weekend. So intentionally eat a little bit more during the week, intentionally incorporate some of the foods that you are denying yourself until the weekend during the week with intention.
mm,
And then on the weekend, you could, even if you want to, increase calories up to maintenance. That's completely fine.
mhm.
Completely fine.
Number 5, how much protein do I actually need to lose weight?
Well, technically, you don't need any protein. You can just like eat other foods and still lose weight, but that would be a terrible idea. Right.
Oh, well, yeah,
So let's talk
yeah.
about, yeah. So let's talk about the optimal range during
Mm,
weight loss to manage hunger and to minimize muscle loss.
mm,
Um, you may have read online, like, a gram per pound of your weight, which is most likely overkill for most people. Then you may have also read 1 gram per pound of your target weight, which is fine, but again, maybe overkill for a lot of people. So I think that anywhere from your target weight in pounds multiplied by point 0.1, sorry, by point 0.7, and then up to 1 gram per pound of your target weight, I think is a good range. So if your goal weight is 150 pounds, 150 multiplied by zero point 0.7 is 105, 150 multiplied by 1 is 150. So 105 to 150 would be a good protein
nice.
range to aim for. How about you, coach? What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think in terms of getting your adequate protein in, it's not a the question itself here of how much protein do I need to actually how much protein do I actually need to lose weight? You need enough to maintain muscle mass because that muscle mass is what's going to preserve your ability to actually still have function in terms of being able to do the activities of daily living. You don't want to lose weight per se. We're looking to lose fat. That's the main thing to consider here.
Exactly. Yeah. Great. Cool. Question 6. Can I lose weight without giving up wine?
Yes. Next question.
Yeah, you can. The thing is, though, that most people who ask this question are probably drinking too much wine. And when I say too much, I mean it will make their weight loss efforts way more difficult than it needs to be. Right. So
Absolutely.
drinking
Yeah.
wine every night, I think is too frequent. It's going to impact your sleep. It's going to therefore impact your hunger. Um, I think when you go out once a week or twice a week with your friends and having more than a couple of glasses of wine is going to be a problem too. Not just for the calories, not just for the impact on your hunger in the moment, not just for the poor sleep and the hunger that's impacted the next day, but is that good for long term health? I don't think so. And also, most people who we work with and who listen to this are women who are either in perimenopause or are in menopause. It's just way more difficult for them specifically to break down wine than it may have used to be. Part of the aging process, part of perimenopause, right?
Mm. Yeah. It's never the wine, it's the decisions that you make after you've had the wine.
Precisely.
It's easier for you to make poor nutritional decisions when you're, a bit tipsy or buzzed or whatever it is,
Yeah,
then you get a serious case of the fuck it's. And that ends up lending itself to, okay, if you're going to be having wine, I would hope that you'd be having it later in the evening, which extends the night. You're eating late, your sleep is shit. You wake up the next day feeling terrible. You're not going to work out or move or just try to recover or do the thing that most of us have done in the past, which is I got to have a greasy breakfast to sop all this up, which isn't a thing.
exactly.
So it's this
Yeah,
cascading effect of just poor choices that continue to happen. You then start over on Monday to then do it again on Thursday and then Friday, Saturday. And it's kind of this, you know, snowballing effect that ends up happening.
absolutely. Yeah. And by the way, no judgment from me. So I grew up in the UK, British pub culture. Okay. I was in that culture for years. In fact, I remember when I was like, we started going to pubs when we were like 16. And
Mm,
yes, that is technically illegal and below the legal drinking age, which is 18 in the UK. But this was, the early 2000s, late 90s. Right? People just cared less back then. Shit was different back then. Um, so no judgment from me. I've done the lifetime's worth of drinking though. I think, was I saying to you, coach? I don't know who I was saying this to, but I said that if I drink one drink a week for the rest of my life, I'll probably still average somewhere around like 4 or 5 drinks per week because I just used to drink so fucking much.
I bet you were a good time, buddy. You're still a good time, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, it was crazy. Um, So when it comes to health, you want to look up what the healthy guidelines are in terms of, okay, don't go below this number, but don't go above this number of drinks per week for health. You can look those numbers up online. We are not health coaches, we are weight loss coaches, at least from the context of this question. So all I'm going to say is stay below the point where you know that the wine is going to impact your hunger on the evening, where it's going to impact your hunger the next morning, and where it's going to negatively impact your sleep.
Mhm.
Stay below whatever number that is, which for most people is 1 or 2 most of the time.
I was mentioning this to a friend earlier this week, where for myself, it's either 2 or 10. And, usually after 2, things start to get a little bit blurry in terms of
Yeah,
proper decision making. So just know what your limit is for that.
yeah, exactly. Number 7. Why am I so tired all the time, even when I sleep enough?
With sleep specifically, I think there's this idea or notion that sleep happens in hours when it doesn't. It happens in cycles. You've heard me say this before.
Mm.
So sleep isn't just a time thing. It's also the quality of your sleep, the different stages of sleep that you have to go through. And things like alcohol, cannabis, these things affect the quality of the sleep cycle that you're in. So there's different stages of sleep. There's light sleep, deep sleep, REM sleep. There's also awake times that happen throughout the night. These are normal, right? So when you get an adequate amount of REM sleep, this means that your emotional processing is going to be better calibrated for the following day. When you get an adequate amount of deep sleep, this means that physical restoration is going to happen. When you have enough light sleep, it's going to be helpful in terms of making sure that you're getting that initial part of your sleep cycle in where your body starts to cool down so you can get to the other stages as well. So there's these different stages of sleep that are important for you to be able to get full rest. It's not just I go to bed and I wake up in the morning. There's a full process that is going on, that is a maintenance schedule that your body goes through while you're sleeping, that requires different stages of sleep that are influenced by what you've done up to 2 to 3 hours prior to you going to bed.
100% coach. Yeah. And the other thing that I want to add on that ties back to an answer to a previous question, that late night stress eating, that is negatively impacting your sleep quality as well. Your
Hmm.
body's still digesting that food when it should be in like a restful recovery state, but it has to
Of
digest all
course.
that food first. So if you are currently stress eating, there's a high, and late at night specifically, there's a pretty high chance that your quality of sleep is going to be low. And even if you are getting a good amount of sleep, the quality just isn't going to be there. So I will explain why.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah,
To touch on this a little bit further, I know it's rapid
go for
fire,
it. Yeah, yeah, we're good.
but
We're
just
good.
just because you mentioned it about the food before bed, there's what's called the thermic effect of food. So how much your body has to increase in terms of its temperature to help you digest the food. So protein has a high thermic effect of food. Any sort of food is going to increase the temperature of your body internally because it's a function that's happening to digest your food. Initial stage of sleep, you have to reduce your body's temperature. This is why there's a lot of sleep hygiene that talks about keeping the room cool, etc. If the room is cool, but your body is a furnace, it's going to be very challenging for your body to bring your heart rate down enough for you to start to get into the sleep stages. So, yes, that's a good point to bring up. If you are going to snack, don't put yourself in a position where you're pushing off the idea of the snack so hard to the point where right before you go to bed. If
Yeah,
you feel like, okay, dinner was an hour and a half, 2 hours ago, I still have an hour and a half or 2 hours before I get to bed, have a snack. And don't just have a snack, have the snack that you want. Make sure it's a snack that fits the 80-20 rule that we talk about in terms of the 20% calories that come from less nutritious stuff that's going to hit those cravings that you're feeling as well. Because from there you'll actually feel like, okay, I'm satiated, I can get to bed, mentally I'm there, versus having all the things that you think you quote unquote should be having that are healthy snacks, and then also having the other snack that is the 20% that I just mentioned as well. Have the thing that you want, and this will put you into a place stress management wise. I feel like you'll have a better quality of sleep as well.
agreed. Number 8. How do I lose weight when I have no time to cook?
See question one, see question five, see basically just list all the questions that we just answered. So
Yeah.
even though you don't have time to cook, it doesn't mean that you can't lose weight, right? It's
Yep.
about preparation in the process, right? So we speak
Yep.
about this all the time. there's meal delivery services, there are food nutritional labels, at least here in Canada, that'll tell you, what the nutritional facts are of the meal that you're eating, so you can still make informed decisions. So it's very possible. We have quite a few clients that do just that, where, okay, I don't have time to cook, but there's a way to get this done because they had very crazy schedules, kids, high performing jobs.
Let's be specific about what we mean by meal delivery. We're not talking about getting Uber Eats. We're talking
Hmm.
about using a service like Factor, who do not sponsor us, but we have mentioned them a bunch of times on the podcast before because we just both used them before. So think a meal service like Factor, which will deliver a meal that all you need to do is it comes like cold with in like a big freezer pack. You keep it in the fridge or you freeze them, and as and when you need them, you just heat them up and you eat them. Okay.
Hmm.
So I think that's a very, very simple solution there. I also am a big fan of meals that don't require cooking
Mm.
because this person definitely has time to, for example, put a slice of bread in the toaster. While that's toasting, put some Greek yogurt and some frozen berries into a bowl, and then the toast will pop up, and they could put a bit of nut butter of some kind on that. Okay, that is not cooking. Okay, making toast is not cooking. Let's be very clear here. It's putting a slice of bread into a machine and tapping a button. It's not cooking. So that I've timed myself making that specific meal that I just went into before. It took me 2 minutes and 54 seconds to make. So I think having as many simple meals like that as possible is going to be a very, very useful thing for you. Something like overnight oats too can be very, very helpful. Just go onto Google and type in high protein overnight oats recipes.
Mm.
And you combine a bunch of shit into a bowl or a Tupperware and you put it in the fridge overnight. There's breakfast and lunch if you want it as well, if you want to make a big enough serving size.
Hmm.
So I think doing that kind of thing is useful. I would also recommend that you have a look at your schedule and you are honest with yourself about whether or not you truly have time to cook or not.
Hmm.
I think that's going to be useful there. Okay. Number 9. Is it normal to feel hungrier when you start working out?
Yep,
Yep.
absolutely. Your
Mhm.
energy out is going up. So your body, which is a living organism, has a autoregulation component to it. The more energy we burn, the more energy we need. The more money you spend, the more money you need to make. So it's just a matter of managing resources. It is totally normal to feel hungrier when you just start working out because your body is doing activity. So we're trying to accommodate for that to keep ourselves alive because you need a certain number of base calories in a day to facilitate living. So yes, it's totally normal. Does that track with you?
100%. Yeah. Especially something that has a pretty big recovery demand like strength training. Your body's going to
Hmm.
crave nutrients not just for the energies that you burned, but for the recovery process too. So
Mm.
that is very, very normal. You could think about calorie cycling. So we've talked before about having a calorie range that you aim for. You could, if you want to, aim for the lower end of that range on the days that you are not hungry from this training, and then aim for the higher end of that calorie range on the days that you are hungrier. That could really help. But yeah, it's
Hmm.
100% normal. Agreed. Cool. And then finally, number 10, why does the scale go up after a good week?
What's a good week?
Yep, exactly. Because you can crush it for a week. You can be in a calorie deficit every day, like an actual calorie deficit. You can get all of your steps, train, and the scale will be up because that's what the scale does. This is not a linear process. You can't expect to lose weight every week on the scale, even if you are in a calorie deficit. Spikes up and down are normal, especially if you're stressed, especially if you're not sleeping well. You're going to be holding on to water. So it's going to be a fluctuation in water retention after a week.
Mm.
It's not going to be muscle. Nobody builds muscle that quickly. Okay, you're not going to build a pound of muscle in a week. So I would just say you got to keep going. Okay,
Okay. Number 11. How do I stop sabotaging myself when I'm close to my goal?
that's incredibly common, right? I see that
Mm.
all the time. The people are
Hmm.
like 3 to 5 pounds or the equivalent in inch lost to where they want to be, and then they keep sabotaging, increasing calories. Um, I think one of the reasons why is because they feel so much better about their habits. that it's just hard to keep doing the hard things. Whereas before, before they dropped 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 pounds, they had a real like drive. They had reasons that were strong. They didn't like how they looked and how they felt. But now they're so close to the goal, they like how they look, they like how they feel. So
Mm.
doing the work can feel like a big challenge. Does that track with you as well, coach?
Yeah, the closer you get to your goal, the easier it is for you to have that internal dialogue of, well, I'm not that far off. I'm not that
Mm,
far off. I'm not that. And then eventually you
yeah,
never, or I won't say never, eventually you keep pushing that off because you're making these small decisions. And if that ends up being the case, then maybe you need to revise your goal. Maybe you're at your goal weight and that's okay.
maybe. Yeah,
This might be the
yeah.
easier thing to do. Sure, maybe it's another 5 or 10 pounds. What is the difference in the quality of life going to be between that extra 5 to 10 pounds versus being right where you are right now, where you're able to maintain it with those maybe sabotaging habits, but they're not really sabotaging habits. It's just more realistic in terms of the things that you're choosing to do and the lifestyle you've adopted by this point. Maybe this is a point or a moment where you should maintain for a bit. So this way, when
A
you do get used to
hundred
it,
percent. 100%.
then
Yeah.
make the trek down.
Yeah. I've seen this with a bunch of clients before. And one of the
Mm,
things that works the best is I say, okay, cool. So here's what we're going to do for the rest of this week, maybe even next week too. We're going to intentionally increase calories to maintenance because pretty often they tell me, I'm feeling a lot better and I still really do want to drop these final 3 to 5 pounds.
mm,
They really do. And so what they have been doing would, come back to the sabotage is they're going into each day with a particular outcome that they want to see in mind, specifically end the day in a calorie deficit. But a different outcome happens. They overeat, they end the day at maintenance. And so they feel like they're failing because they're trying to do one thing and a different thing that they didn't want to happen is actually happening.
mm,
So what we do is we reframe the thing that's happening to be the goal. We're going to be intentional about finishing each day at maintenance.
mm,
And so we get to build them up to feeling like they're being successful again. They're feeling better about the process. They have an extra 500 or so calories. They feel like they've got more flexibility. And usually after 3 to 7 or so days, they tell me, hey, you know what, Daniel? I actually want to get back in a calorie deficit now. I'm feeling ready. So I think a,
mhm.
a break at maintenance is a very good move.
Yeah. The journey for fat loss is a series of staircases and landings, like we've mentioned in the past. So
Yep.
you may be on a landing at that moment, and that's okay. Take that moment to appreciate the work that you've done. It doesn't have to be a straight line all the way down to the bottom.
Yep.
Taking that moment to appreciate where you are and look at, okay, what would maintenance feel like? It's a great opportunity to practice maintenance because at some point you're going to get to your goal weight. And if you do that, then it's not about going back to the old habits that you had. It's about, okay, is the way that I did this sustainable for me to be able to continue this as a lifestyle for the next 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years?
Absolutely. Well said, coach. Cool.
Number 12, can you lose weight just by walking?
There are two questions here, really. It's like, can you and should you? So, can you? Yes. Should you? That can be a good initial thing that you start to do. Yeah,
Mm,
absolutely. Get into a calorie deficit, start walking more. Great. Should that be the only form of exercise that you do throughout your entire weight loss journey? Abso-fucking-lutely not. What happens in a calorie deficit? If you are not strength training, you're losing muscle, losing bone density. You're going to get weaker, more frail.
mm,
Okay. This is going to happen if you don't strength train while you're losing weight. And you don't have to worry about making it the very first thing. If you want to spend 1 to 4, 1 to 6 weeks, whatever, just walking, focusing on nutrition, that is completely fine. That is completely fine. You're not going to really do any damage in like 1 to 6 weeks. Okay,
mm.
if I'm wrong here, coach, please do jump in. But I think losing around a pound a week for 6 weeks without strength training, you're not going to really do any kind of damage, assuming, of course, that you are a healthy person. Just assuming that.
I think I'll play a bit of devil's advocate here because
Yeah, sure.
what I will say is you can lose weight just by walking. So
Yeah,
the weight, like anything else in strength training, there's a different dose that you can modulate here, right? So
Mm.
walking is just okay. So you're at a regular cadence walk. You're walking at like
Yep.
3 miles an hour on the street on a flat ground. Cool. If you really just enjoy walking, but you just fucking hate the gym, you can't stand it, you don't want to get a home gym or you don't have the ability to do it,
Yep.
fine. Maybe then we look at, okay, well, you can walk the stairs. If you find a staircase, you could do that.
Sure.
You could get a weighted vest. You can look to walk on an incline or up hills. There's different ways you can use walking in terms of modulating the effort or the intensity to facilitate that. I won't say strength gain because it's not strength training, but it's still force on the muscle. And in doing that, it's going to help improve your mechanics when you do want to potentially take up running, when you do want to start squatting, when you do want to start doing activities that are going to require more strength because you are going to want to build muscle. At some point, one of the principles of strength training is the principle of diminishing returns. You cannot get the same or a greater stimulus from the same activity that you have been doing. You're going to have to push the intensity or the stimulus at some degree. So if if you do have a normal life where you're working for 8 hours a day, etc., at some point you're not going to have 24 hours to just continuously walk. At some point you're going to have to sleep. So the stress stimulus is eventually going to go down, or it'll be met to where your body is currently at. So you have to find a way to increase that strength, that stimulus from the activity at some point.
Totally. Yeah. Fully agree there, coach. Yeah. Totally. Cool. Let's go on to the next question. We are
Mhm.
33, almost 34 minutes in. Okay. I think we're doing
Oof.
well.
Okay. Why is losing weight so much harder in my 40s?
Hmm. As somebody in their 40s, how about I jump in with this one?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What I
You're
have
the
found
expert here.
is, hey, it's rarely hormones, rarely hormones. Although if you are in perimenopause or in menopause, hormones are going to be a thing that we're going to have to consider.
Mm,
But it's going to be less about hormones' impact on weight loss, weight gain directly, and more about how they impact behavior, especially how it can impact your behavior because it's going to negatively impact sleep a lot of the time, right? But
right.
more than that, though, in our 40s, especially if we're parents, this is when life stress, life responsibilities peak. Kids are young often, right? Because people like me, we're having kids younger than our parents. Like my mum was 20, 25 when I was born, which like the idea of the 25-year-old version of me having a kid is just fucking ridiculous. Okay. I was not ready at 25 to have a kid. But, now people of people who were born in the 80s, let's say, we have, generally speaking, tended to have kids later than our parents. So for me, at almost 41, I've got one daughter who's almost 5 and another one who is 16 months.
Mm,
Okay, so and also I'm running my own business. So my career is kind of like higher than it's ever been. The responsibilities on me are greater than they have ever been. Lots of responsibilities means more stress. More stress means we are just more likely to stress eat, less likely to work out, less likely to go and walk around. So it is just a situation of where we are at this particular stage of life.
mm,
So I think that's one major thing. And then, yeah, menopause, perimenopause, have to acknowledge that the hormone changes are going to cause those mood swings. It's going to cause sleep to be bad. And if sleep is bad, we're going to be tired. We're going to be more hungry. We're going to be less inclined to move around. And when I say
mm,
we, of course, I don't mean you and I, coach, right? I mean like the women who are going to go through this.
mm,
So menopause, perimenopause is going to make it more difficult for sure. It's not, though, going to have an inherent direct way of having you gain weight. It
mm.
just doesn't happen unless you have a very severe hormone disorder. Does that track with the clients that you work with in their 40s, coach?
Yeah, and I think a lot of this has to do less with weight loss and more with habit execution because you've
Yep.
now had 40 years of building habits. And it's really hard to change something once it's become concrete into your identity, right? Or near like
Yeah.
when the concrete's almost set. So asking yourself to change 40 years of habits is going to be really challenging. So giving
Yep.
yourself that credit and space to realize, okay, I got to get a rep in here and practice this decision that is for the next 40 years, right? So the decisions that and the lifestyle that you had in your 30s is what you're seeing in your 40s in terms of your health. So instead of saying, okay, then it's a write off, think of how the times and in the habits and the choices you're making in your 40s are now going to affect your 50s, for example.
Yeah.
So you're always
Good
thinking
observation.
ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good way of
So
thinking about it. Yeah.
but like you mentioned, responsibilities, kids, career intensity, there's a lot of things that are going to facilitate higher stress, like you're mentioning for yourself. And that's generally why it's a lot harder because then
Yeah.
you have to make decisions around all those things that are high responsibility. We spoke in one of the podcasts about rubber habits or rubber
Mm.
things in life versus glass things in life. So, which ones can you let drop and they'll bounce back versus the things that are glass that will break?
Yeah. Well said, coach. Oh, and one other thing that I wanted to mention about forties, like most of us have ended up in the suburbs, which means we're just
Mm,
moving around less. We're relying more on cars. We're sitting more. We're not moving as much. We have to be more intentional about that as well. It's not built into our lives compared with when we used to live downtown, which where
mm,
everything was on foot. Like you, coach, right? So like
mhm.
you don't even have to think about your steps right now. If anything, you probably have to make sure you don't get too many steps,
Something
right?
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool. Okay. Next question.
Number 14, what do you think about GLP-1s?
This is an episode all on its own.
Mm,
So I'll just say a couple of things, like just to summarize. So number one, they are a net positive. I am not against them. And number two, for added nuance, anecdotally speaking, I think they're probably being overprescribed. And I'm thinking that as well, there are too many doctors doing a terrible job not informing their patients that they need to be strength training and eating more protein while using
mm,
these things.
right.
That's big picture view. But what do you think, coach?
Yeah, I think like anything else, it's a medication, and you ha- you wouldn't tell someone who's diabetic not to use insulin. That's just what they
Exactly.
need.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's a time and place for everything. I think, living in the place of and rather than or, like we've mentioned
Yep.
in the past, is a
Mm-hmm.
good way to go. Some people just need to see a W on the board in terms of their goals. So it's like, okay, I'm going to integrate
100%.
this GLP-1 for a moment, go down a few 5, 10 pounds. And in that process of going down those pounds, they realize, hey, actually, I'm not hungry during this time. I am, like we mentioned earlier in the podcast, I am just bored or I'm stressed. And you get a better handle on terms of what your hunger cues really are or where you feel like they actually should be. So, like anything else, it's a tool. However, it's not a tool that you need to use all the time. You should use it in at the right place and time under medical supervision as well.
Absolutely. Well said, coach. Cool. Cool.
Uh, okay, number 15. Is it better to work out in the morning or evening?
Depends on what they mean by better, right? So
Mm,
if they mean better for fat loss, it doesn't matter. If they mean better for general strength progress, most people probably going to do a slightly better job in the evening, or more specifically, probably at mid afternoon is going to be like peak times to do a strength workout. But well, let's take it from like a weight loss perspective. For me, it's whatever time you can be most consistent with. Okay,
yes.
whichever leads to most overall consistency and actually getting the workouts done is the better time.
Hmm. Yeah. The time that fits
Yeah,
your schedule for you to get it done, which you should
exactly.
be looking at ahead of time, like we mentioned in terms of planning and stress management.
Yeah. Now, if this were a professional athlete asking, we
Mm,
would have to think about, okay, like this, the circadian rhythm of this particular athlete, like when are they going to be peaking? Also, when they are going to be in their competition, what time of day is the competition going to be as well? We've got to think about that. But we're not training athletes. Well, I mean, I know that you have or you are at the moment, coach, but I don't. I don't train athletes. So
mm,
I'm not going to think about anything like that. I'm going to think about, okay, when is this person going to be most consistent?
hmm.
That's all I'm going to think about, really. Okay.
Nice.
Okay. Number
5 left.
16. Okay. We're doing well. Number 16. How long does it actually take to see results?
One, define results, but we won't get into
Hmm.
that. So, how long does it take to actually see results? Well, you're going to have to work on the habits that we're mentioning here throughout the entire episode and give yourself
Yeah.
a time frame. 4 to 6 weeks, I think, is a very reasonable amount of time to see those shifts happen. Keeping in mind, we live in a very fast paced society where everything is demanded like now. The one thing that isn't like that is our body. It has a biological clock. It takes its time to perform the things that you're asking it to do. Mean it, and to add to that, you also have to, like we mentioned earlier, tinker the approach. Okay, I think I'm in a calorie deficit. Cool, because I'm taking data like measurements and scale weight, it turns out that I'm not based on this data. Cool. So you adjust the approach. Giving yourself at least that 4 week minimum should facilitate the change that you're looking for. And if it's not, then you have to change your approach. What do you think?
Totally, coach. Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I think let's say if somebody has all their habits locked down,
Mm,
I would say it takes 2 weeks to see a change in the measurements,
mm,
3 weeks to see a trend on the scale, 4-ish weeks to notice a slight change in how clothes are fitting, and then around 6 to 8 weeks before other people start to notice.
hmm Yeah.
I think this is some good general guidelines there.
Yeah, I think those totally track with me. 2 weeks for you to
Yeah,
notice, 4 weeks for things to really start fitting different in terms of clothing, and then
yeah,
it's always been 6 weeks later. So in terms of the time that other people notice,
yeah, yeah.
but in terms of what I mentioned earlier about that 4 to 6 week time frame, even just giving yourself time to get into the process and getting comfortable to the change, like I mentioned earlier, in terms of losing weight in your 40s, it's hard to
Mm,
change. Give yourself
yeah,
space and time to do that.
yeah, for sure. And if we're thinking about getting to their long term goal,
Mm,
1 to 3 years,
yeah.
honestly, for most people, it's 1 to 3 years. Yeah. 17. Why do I lose weight? Then hit a plateau and stop.
You lose weight because you take an extreme approach. Then you hit a
Yeah,
plateau because the approach is not one that is sustainable. And you stop because the approach is not sustainable, like I just mentioned.
totally. Fully agreed. Yeah. There's also a slightly different way of looking at the question
Mm,
where they lose weight on the scale, then they stop. And that's because weight loss isn't linear. That's going to
hmm
happen. You're going to lose weight, then it's going to stop, then it might slightly increase, then it will drop, then it will stop again, then it might drop, then it might go up, then it might stop. That's how the weight on the scale changes. It's not linear.
hmm
In fact, if you are losing weight every single day, I would say go to the doctor. Something might be wrong. That's not normal.
Right.
Doesn't happen to anybody. Okay. Number 18. Can I eat out and still lose weight?
Yes. We mentioned earlier
Yeah.
in terms of not being able to cook, you can still get the job done.
Yeah. I would say I agree. I would also say that minimize it as much as possible.
hmm
If we're thinking about the 80-20 rule, which I think is a good guideline to apply here, I would say no more than 20% of your week's meals should be out or takeout. So if you eat 3 meals a day, 7 days a week, so 21 meals per week, so 20% of that is four. And it should also not be for dinners because that tends to be where you have the most calories. So maybe two dinners, maybe two lunches can be out. And I would say that at least two of those 4 meals, at least, should be at a place where you can be pretty damn confident about the calories and you can actually get the calorie information, which usually means eating at some kind of chain,
hmm
whether it's fast food, whether it's like healthier fast food, whatever. But a chain, depending on the size, depending on where you are in the world, usually is required to provide calorie guidelines. And chains also, because they like experience to be consistent at each location, they're going to be cooking in a very similar way at each place. You'd hope so anyway. Yeah. Okay. Number 19. How do I get back on track after falling off completely?
This is more of a mindset question to me because
Yeah. Agreed.
falling off the track is part of the track. There's going to be times where you go on vacation and you call that falling off track when really you're just at maintenance. So
Yeah.
when you understand that the track isn't straight, like you mentioned in terms of weight loss not being linear, that is part of the track. Again, the ups are part of the downs. You have to have those staircases and landings, and sometimes the staircases go back up, and and when you are tracking properly, that's when you can catch yourself saying, hey, actually, I'm noticing this is going the other direction. And you use that data to make an informed decision as to how to go back in the direction that you're looking to go that's associated with your goals.
Yeah. Well said, coach. What we do in our coaching service is we make higher calorie maintenance days part of the plan
hmm
so that Sunday is no longer about getting back on track. Sunday is continuing. Because if Saturday was a higher calorie day and we make it part of the plan, and we make eating cookies and ice cream occasionally part of the plan too, then doing that is not off track. So I think that's
Exactly.
going to be an important, maybe readjustment to your program moving forward, to view these things as just part of the track, as you say, coach.
Mhm.
Now, let's say that this person has done that and then shit still goes really badly wrong for them. How to get back on track? And honestly, it often comes down to like making the choice. And even more specifically, making one positive choice. Okay, cool. At my next meal or right now, what can I do right now? What one simple action can I take to demonstrate to myself that I am back on track, back on plan? It could be going for a 5 minute walk. It could be doing a workout. It could be having a high protein, high fiber meal. That's it. It's one decision to rebuild momentum.
Exactly.
And holy shit, number 20, we made it, coach. Is cardio or weights better for weight loss?
Both. So one is not better than the other. However, it's nuanced, right? And to do this
Yep.
in rapid fire way, cardio is good for your heart. Weights are good for your muscle. So you should prioritize both. Your heart is what's going to keep you moving your entire life to facilitate the blood that goes to those muscles to help you perform the functions you're asking them to perform. And the stronger your muscles are, which also, by the way, your heart is a muscle. So
Mm,
keeping both of them balanced is going to be important. It's not a this or, it's this end.
yep. I agree. Yeah. I mean, I guess it could be argued that weights are slightly more important for making fat loss sustainable in the long term. For the simple reason that lifting weights is how you signal to your body, okay, in this calorie deficit, only burn fats, keep all the muscle, which
Mm,
is important for long term weight maintenance. But I don't like either ors, really.
mhm.
I think cardio should be part of your plan because, I mean, yeah, okay, it burns a bit of calories, but that's not really the reason to do it during fat loss. It's more because it's really good for your heart. It's really good for your lungs. It's really good for your overall well being, for your mood, so physical and mental. So I think do both. If you have to prioritize one, I'd say lift weights, but don't get in that situation. There's no reason really that you'll need to prioritize only one over the other. You can do both. Even if it's just you begin and end your strength workout with 5 to 10 minutes of cardio, or
Exactly.
begin or end with some cardio. Do both. Coach, we made it through. We hit all 20. The podcast is going to stay on the internet. Amazing.
Boo.
Okay, well, if you enjoy this rapid fire format, please let us know because then we can do it again at some point in the future. I think I like most of what we do to be the deeper dives, the nuance, which we can't do by definition on a rapid fire episode. But it's nice to mix things up. So if you enjoyed this, let us know. And like we said, we'll do it again at some point in the future. Have a wonderful week, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening, everybody.